Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. Acknowledgement, shout out always to the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward. Um, we're coming to you after a week off. This is week 18, home against Minnesota to close out the regular season. The Lions finished the season 12-5 with a 30-20 win today over the Vikings. So, for those of you who are new to the show, this is a Lions podcast, right? You may or may not be Lions fans. You may be like that guy Kenneth Reed who just chimes in to be annoying, or you may be someone who follows. So I was off last week, real life stuff happening, so I didn't get to comment on Dallas. So um, today I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of the things they accomplished already, and I was asked all week multiple times, "Hey, you got to talk about Dallas, right?" So I'm going to revisit Dallas a little bit. Then I'm going to talk about today's game, and then we're gonna take some Twitter questions. Right off the top, if you asked me 4 months ago, "Hey, how would you be cool if the Lions finished 12-5, won the North by I don't know 2 or 3 games, hosted a home playoff game, potentially more than one?" I would have been fine with that. I would have been thrilled with that. It's basically what I predicted. I'm not blowing smoke, but you can go back to the preseason pod. It's in the archives. I predicted they would go 12-5. Actually, I think I said 11-6, but then the day before Kansas City, I changed. And for the record, the other games are on here because the Eagles are getting smoked. Last check, and Dallas is in control. But if both of those games in that way, the 2 seed is still a thing. So if you see me looking, it's not what I normally do. I'm normally focused on the podcast, but the TV's right there, and I might look. So 12-5 season is just solid, right? Winning the division is important. I'm not a big banner guy, but I guess they threw up a banner today. And there are people who are going to make fun of it. The guys on the radio station, they're going to tell you, "Oh, that's weak. That's low class. Good teams don't do that." And I think that's crap. I think all teams do it. I think I have friends. I'm going to get a trophy room speech, and actually, banners are important if you understand they are the first step. They're the first step in a larger goal. So I think it's important. Acknowledge the 12-5 finish. It's good. I think there are many more things to be happy and positive about, particularly the young core of this team, which there's time in the offseason to do that. But you can talk about Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, and Laporta all had 10 plus touchdowns this season. I don't know that that's ever happened. It's a big deal, because it screams this is a really young, talented offense. I think it's a big deal that Laporta set a bunch of rookie tight end records. That move, that pick wasn't loved universally. I think when they traded Hawkinson, people were like, "What?" But there was always a plan. Brad Holmes had a strategy. I think St. Brown having 100 catches, 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns is a big deal. Why? Because it's only been done by one other person. And by the way, it wasn't Calvin Johnson. And it's not just an excuse for me to mention my favorite all-time player, Herman Moore, but I'm going to. Herman Moore's the only other player to do it in Lions history. That's a big deal. That stuff's important, right? To talk about as a first step. 2 or 3 years from now, we're competing for Super Bowls. We'll look back at this team and say that was the team that took the steps. That was the building block. You can look at the bad boy Pistons and say, "Oh, that team that got past Boston and the infamous Kevin McHale, Isaiah Thomas handshake. You saw it, right?" And this is what this year is. Next year, the expectations will be different. It'll feel different because we will expect more, right? So next year is going to feel totally different than this year, but it's important, right? You can buy that logic, but I think what they've done this year is not just important because it's a cool little cute thing. It's important because if you look at it right and you look at the context and you understand the salary cap and you understand that we have a really good GM who understands how to draft, you should see this as the first step. That's what's exciting. However this year ends, this is exciting because this is the first step in many. I think coming out of this game, the obvious question is about Laporta. That's the obvious concern. And there were people who sent me tweets, hey, they should rest everybody. The Rams are resting people. We're locked into the three no matter what, which turns out that wasn't true. We are not locked into the three no matter what. And that's why you play them. So anybody who has the question of why do you play people versus rest, it was a shot at the two. And I haven't looked in a minute, but the Eagles were taking it for, for lack of a better term. And if the Eagles and Cowboys both lose, we're the two seed. And I don't believe Dallas is going to lose to the Redskins. Damn, I called them the Redskins. Sorry, that's old school. I don't believe Dallas is going to lose to the Commanders. But if that somehow happens, who knows? We're the two seed. So you had to play them because you got to get that win. You don't have the luxury of just handing this game away and settling for the two. And that's not the mentality of this team. That's not the mentality of this organization to settle. We're just going to settle for the three. You always go for it. You always play hard. And I just think that was the mentality of the organization of the team today was we still think we got a shot at the two, so we're going to do everything we can to get the two. That's the culture they built. They knew it was probably statistically unrealistic, but you had to play people. And hopefully Laporta is not as bad. But if it is, you know what? Next man up, we got to do it. You had to play everybody today and take your shot. Realistically, we're probably going to get the Rams or the Packers. I'm fine with that. This version of the Lions, the one that's played, say, the last four games, and I don't know how many data points you need, but the Lions team that's played the last four should be 4-0, but they're 3-1. Uh, that team that played Denver that Saturday, the team that fought fought Minnesota on the road. The team that with a minute 40 came back and literally beat Dallas last week. And the team that just sort of didn't play perfect today, but just grinded out the win. I like that team against anybody, anywhere. It's not always pretty. Hell, it's rarely pretty. I like the way that team plays. That team is just the term I've been using is the Lions are going to be a tough out. You're not just going to come in and roll on them. They're going to be a tough out. So like I said, the plan for the day is to let's revisit Dallas. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. I've held it out because I didn't get the pod last week, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more detail about today's game, and then we'll get some tweets and get out of here. So by the way, I love what they did with Josh Reynolds. And for those of you who don't understand what was going on coming into the game, Josh Reynolds had performance bonuses built into his contract. And I think one of them was 600 yards. He gets $250,000. And whatever number of touchdowns he has, he needed one more. So late in the first half, you saw Goff take some shots at the end zone, trying to get Josh that touchdown. That's $250,000 for Josh Reynolds. And then at the end of the game, up 10 with less than 2 minutes, they threw like four straight bubble screens to Josh Reynolds because he only needed at that point like 20, 21 yards. And that's about the culture. If you think that's cheesy, cool. I don't really care. But when those guys are in that room together as a team, they are rooting for each other. They're all about each other. And for the coaching staff to say, for Ben Johnson to no, hey, Josh needs 22 yards or whatever it was. Hey, Josh needs this. Yeah, the game's over. And Dan Campbell had to sign off on it. And I'm sure he was like, yeah. And I saw him go up to Minnesota's coach afterwards and say, hey, we weren't trying to do anything but get this man his money. We're trying to get this man $250,000. For Jared Goff, that's not a big deal. For David Montgomery, for Josh Reynolds, $250,000 is a big deal. That was cool. No matter what you think of it, as a culture and a team that's rooting for a dude, that's a cool thing to do, and I liked it. I liked it from the coaching staff. So let me do my Dallas thing. And I was gonna say I'm gonna try and do this short, but that's probably a lie. So I'm not. I'm gonna do whatever comes to me. Now I've had a week, so it's not gonna be maybe as intense as it would have been, 8 days ago. But here's my thought. So in the moment, I knew what was happening. You knew what was happening. We all knew what was happening because it's happened to us before. We know what that is. We knew what that was, right? Logic told me there's no way they've practiced this play and Taylor Decker doesn't know. And I'll use their numbers because I feel like that's better. So 68 is Taylor Decker, 70 is Dan Skipper. There's no way they practiced that play, they've run that play before, and Decker doesn't know he's got a report. So immediately The idea that Decker didn't report, I called bullshit immediately. There's no way. There's no way Decker didn't report. So I was immediately like seconds later going, oh man, this is fishy, something confusing. Because there's no way Decker didn't report. That just doesn't make sense. And I like logic, right? So then when all the information starts to come out, it starts to make a little more sense. I get it. So the idea is, oh, the Lions are trying to pull some trickery. Well, yeah, everybody does it. Everybody does it virtually every play of every game. Sending a guy in motion is trying to deceive people. Whenever anybody reports as a lineman reports eligible in any game, that's an attempt to deceive. It's to make you think we might throw that dude the ball. Every punt formation, when the up man is, that's an attempt to deceive. When the guy waves fair catch but lets the ball go behind, that's an intent to deceive. This is a part of the game. So hell yeah, the Lions were trying to trick Dallas because Sewell went up to the ref, Decker went up to the ref, and Skipper came in making the gesture. Yes, they were trying to trick everybody. But you know who should never be tricked? And that who should never fall for the banana in the tailpipe is the ref because he knows the rules. He's supposed to know, right? But once the game was over, I knew exactly how the league was going to react. We all did because we know what this league doesn't give a damn. This league doesn't care about fans of Detroit, probably any other team, because other teams have gotten screwed. We knew what was going to happen. This league doesn't care about that. They were going to react the way they reacted with the Calvin process, I don't know, 15 years ago. We all knew that was crap. And what did they do? They came out and made a new rule to cover their asses because they messed up. They literally created a new rule and redefined what a catch is because they would rather do that than just say our official messed up. The same way they did in Seattle when KJ Wright or some Seattle linebacker batted the ball out of the end zone and they screwed us. And we all saw it and we all knew it. And the announcers are saying it. That's illegal. You can't do that. So what? So what? It's the Lions. Who cares? Or maybe not even just the Lions. They picked up a flag in a playoff game in Dallas on a pass. If you had a video to represent pass interference, and you can go through all the plays in the history of the league, and say, "What?" It's somebody who didn't know football. A guy came from Mars. Hey, can you show me what pass interference looks like? It would have been that play against Brandon Pettigrew in Dallas in, I want to say 13. It might have been 15, whatever year that was. That's the definition. They picked up the flag, but the league, because they cannot say our refs screwed up. They won't do it. It's not possible. You know that person in your life who just can't ever say they're wrong. They don't they don't have the capacity to even acknowledge mentally that they're wrong, much less say it out loud, right? I don't think it was personal to the Lions because this happened. I think New Orleans or Minnesota or somebody really took it on the chin, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago on one that was just ridiculous. And it was a playoff game. But this league does not ever criticize the refs. You will get fined as a player if you criticize a referee's call. As a coach, you can't even go to the press conference and say, I think the refs got it wrong. You're going to get an invoice on Tuesday. They just don't do it. They have a demonstrated history of protecting incompetent officiating at all costs. And they continue to do it. It is one of the biggest problem. I want to say the biggest. Might not be the biggest. It's one of the biggest problems this league has. They go to great lengths to protect incompetent officiating, and they do not care. They do not care how it impacts an individual team. They do not care how it impacts a fan base. They don't care how it impacts playoff seedings and potential home games. That's millions of dollars. Now, I know we don't care about Sheila Hamm's pockets. That's not the point. It's just not fair, right? They don't care. Even one of their own officials jumped on the screen on ESPN immediately and said a bunch of shit that was wrong. Oh, it was an improper formation. It was not an illegal formation. He was just wrong. But he's so programmed that nope, can never criticize the refs. Got to get on and defend it. Find some way, create some avenue, manufacture a narrative out of nothing to make sure we cannot say Brad Allen screwed up. That because that's all that happened. A regular human being made a mistake, but the league can't just do that. They don't have anything in the book that says how do we do that. When we get on the air, when we get on Twitter, when we kick out a notice and says our guy screwed up, what do we do? Because they've never done it. They have no idea how to handle that. They don't know. So then they did all this dumb stuff. Brad Allen shows up in the press conference and doubles down and says Decker didn't report, Skipper reported. Ah, Then the video evidence comes out and it's like, no, no, no. And we all know what happened because we sat and we watched it all week. We knew what it costs. You ain't heard nothing for Roger Goodell. That's the bad thing to me. Because I often talk about leadership in sports. I equate leadership. I talk about leadership in my own workplace a lot because leadership looks a certain way. Really good leadership looks a certain way. Goodell doesn't care. He doesn't care about the impact to the Lions. Now, maybe he made a phone call to Sheila and apologized. We'll never know. I doubt it. I doubt it. He hasn't said anything publicly because he doesn't care about the fans. I think they're in a place where they assume something else will happen and they'll stop caring about it. Or maybe the Lions will just win against Minnesota, beat the Rams at home, and go to Dallas and win in 2 weeks, and they'll stop caring about it. And we will. He's right. We'll catch on to something else, or the next game, and we'll stop, or we won't, because I don't forget anything. And I remember the Calvin Process game in Chicago. And I remember when KJ Wright batted that ball out of the end zone. And I remember when that referee picked up that flag in Dallas. And I'm never going to forget it. Right. But he doesn't care. They don't care. It just doesn't matter to them. And at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. So this is what I think happened. And other people have said this is not new or interesting. The Lions absolutely were attempting to deceive people. They were absolutely attempting to deceive the Cowboys because that's what you do. It's part of the game. So a bunch of linemen walked toward the ref. Decker, Sewell, Skipper's coming in the game. Here's the thing. Brad Allen sees Skipper coming in, and Dan Skipper, because the crowd went bananas today, all 5, 6, 7 times Skipper came in, and the ref said number 7 is reporting. So Skipper comes in and reports, and he's the lineman that comes in and plays the extra tight end role for the Lions. Brad Allen is the ref. He knows this. He sees Skipper coming in. Skipper does the hand gesture. Brad Allen sees that. He's seen it a bunch of times. He's seen it 5 or 6 times in that game. He says Skipper's reporting. Well, according to their own video, the video they kicked out on Tuesday to absolve Brad Allen and blame the Lions, there are two components to reporting. You have to make the gesture and you have to verbally say to the ref, I'm reporting. You know what Dan Skipper never did? He never told Brad Allen he was reporting. Taylor Decker, on the other hand, walked up to Brad Allen, made the gesture, and said, reporting. That's what Taylor Decker did. So am I debating that 3 different guys walked up to the ref? No. Am I debating that all 3 of them may have made the hand gesture? No. That probably happened. I don't deny that. And that's what should happen. You should be trying to trick Dallas because the ref's going to announce it anyway, and it's Dallas's job to figure that out. You're not supposed to do them favors. Yes, the Lions tried to deceive Dallas. We get it. So the ref that came on ESPN, and, oh, the Lions tricked themselves. No, they didn't. They tricked your stupid ass ref. That's who got tricked. But there are two components, according to their own video, that they kicked out Tuesday when they tried to blame the Lions. Only one guy said reporting. Only one, and his name's Taylor Decker. Dan Skipper never said reporting. He never got close enough to the ref to say reporting. He made the gesture. Brad Allen said that dude reports all the time. 70 reports all the time. So he's a 70s reporting. The reality is 68 walked up to you and said the words reporting. Now, maybe he thought 68 was telling him that 70 was reporting. But we don't know that. Why? Because they won't tell the truth. They won't just admit it. Right. And that's tough. That's tough in real life. That's tough in sports. It is incredibly tough in this league to do the true honest contrition, right? Real apologies are something that people struggle with. They just don't because you have to, there's a degree of admitting you're wrong, right? You have to know and be comfortable within yourself. And it's like there's 5 components to it. And I've talked about this before, probably not on the podcast, but I can relate it to the league and kind of what should have happened, right? The first thing is you have to acknowledge that the it we're talking about, it happened. So very easily, later Saturday night, the league could have put out a note and said something better than the way I'm going to say it. We understand that people feel like the ending of the game screwed the Lions. We agree. It did. It did. We're not changing it, but yeah, we get it. We screwed the Lions. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it happened. Because if in a real conversation, shit like "I'm sorry you feel that way" or "I'm sorry you see it that way," it's not an "I'm sorry." It's a deflection. You're not acknowledging it, right? The second piece, understand the impact. In that same memo, email, tweet, the NFL should have said, yeah, we acknowledge it happened. The Lions got screwed. We also understand that this it that happened could potentially cost the Lions a home playoff date, could potentially cost them seeding. We get it. So acknowledge it, acknowledge the impact to the person that happened to. Third one, and this is a stumbling block for regular people and real apologies, and certainly for this league. Acknowledge it was your fault. Acknowledge it was your fault. Stick Brad Allen's ass in front of a podium, and he could have simply said, "It's on me. It's on me. I saw 70 coming in. He did the gesture. I thought he was reporting." The truth is, 68 walked up to me, did gesture, and said he was reporting. I should have said 68 was reporting, but I saw that's on me. And this isn't unprecedented in other leagues. I wish I remember the exact date, but the Tigers had a pitcher named Armando Galarraga throwing a perfect game. I want to say '08 ish, '08 season is what it feels like to me. Throwing a perfect game. And I think with one out in the ninth, maybe two, a ground ball, he was out by a full step. And the ump called him safe. Umpire's name was Jim Joyce. I remember it like it was yesterday. Jim Joyce called him safe. The replay showed he was out easily. I mean, he was out by a step, easy. Jim Joyce handled it perfectly. When this was all said and done, I respected Jim Joyce more. Jim Joyce in the postgame said, "I kicked the call." That is baseball ump speech for "I blew it. I messed that up. That's on me." Literally was in tears, apologized to Armando Galarraga. The next day, came out, gave him a hug, told everybody, stood in front of microphones and said, "I stole a perfect game from this kid. That's on me. I got to live with that. I got to live with that," right? That's the fourth piece. When you acknowledge it's your fault, the fourth piece is acknowledge you feel bad about it. Jim Joyce was in tears. He felt horrible. Because if you really believe the first three, if you acknowledge it, you know it hurt someone and you know it's your fault, four should be easy. Because if you're a reasonable human being and you actually are responsible for doing something that hurts someone and it's your fault, you should feel bad. This league doesn't feel bad. They don't give a damn about the Lions. They don't care about the Lions losing a home playoff game. They don't care about Lions fans. They don't care. They don't care. And the last piece is you say it won't happen again. And so the league jumped on Tuesday to "it won't happen again." Didn't do any of the first four. They jumped right to the fifth, put out a video. So now refs are going to go overboard, right? Yes, you got to make the gesture and say it. And they might walk over to the sideline or up to the quarterback and say, "Hey, who the hell's reporting right now? I got a bunch of dudes walking up to me. Is it 70? Is it 68? Who's reporting?" Then they can go over to the other team and say, 70 is eligible, 68 is eligible. So they're going to do it better now, just like the Calvin process. What they're going to do is reinvent their game rather than just own it. Reinvent the rules, reinvent the way you do things rather than just take ownership of a human being, one human being making a mistake. Because somebody put out, I think it was Antonio Brown, the former Steeler. Goodell should overturn this game. That was never going to happen. This league doesn't give a damn about Lions fans. This league doesn't give a damn about that. They were never going to do that. But Jim Joyce did it in baseball. He handled it perfectly. If you know what I'm talking about, Google Jim Joyce, Armando Galarraga. You'll get the whole story. And don't focus on the play because he admitted he met. Look at his reaction that night in the postgame, the next day. And after that, the league, the team, Galarraga as a whole, me as a fan, I had more respect for Jim Joyce after that, right? Because I thought that's a stand up guy. That's an individual who took ownership, full accountability and ownership of what he did. So So the league jumped right to, we're going to fix it so it never happens again. But they didn't do any of the first four steps. They jumped right to five. And I got over it quickly because I did not expect the league to do the right thing. I did not expect the league to do something inconsistent with what they've always done to the Lions and probably other teams. So it wasn't surprising. And I'm fine with it. Whatever. I don't actually care that much anymore. It is what it is. The team went out today, won the game, did what they needed to do. Control what you can control. But I wasn't surprised. It was just, that's my feeling on the Dallas thing. Wasn't surprised at how the league handled it. They're still not owning it. They're still trying to blame the Lions. You still got officials out here saying it was an illegal formation, but Rex Ryan on ESPN and many others, Ryan Clark did a whole chalkboard thing on it. It wasn't an illegal formation. You can clearly see Decker walk up to the ref and report it. Skipper never got within 15 yards of the ref. He could not have reported. By their own rules, he couldn't have reported. So another in a long list of the league screwing the Lions. I'm over it. Whatever. So uh, let's talk a bit about the game uh, today. A couple things stood out. A number of things stood out. Some good, some bad. And Dallas is not going to lose to the Commanders, so the two seed is not going to happen. That game's out of control. Special teams, I like the impact. Jack Fox, I don't talk about punters. Nobody talks about punters, but I thought Khalif Raymond before he got hurt was having a really good game, and I thought Jack Fox was great. And punters actually impact the game. We just don't talk about them. I thought early in the game they looked sharp as a team. They looked pretty crisp, which I thought was good. I like I like blocking. I like blocking and tackling. And the tight ends on a touchdown by I want to say Gibbs. Could be wrong. Really good blocking, both of them. Laporta and Mitchell were both out there blocking. I saw some improved tackling early, and I saw the defense step up at a key moment after Brian Branch committed a penalty that could have been really costly. They stepped up. Not a lot of self-inflicted stuff early, other than the Branch penalty. Um, but here's the thing: I saw some stuff that still concerns me, right? And I don't know if Art's listening yet. I talk about my friend Art a lot. It's probably weird for me to be nitpicking a double digit win that just closed out a 12-5 season, but it's not nitpicking if I'm concerned about what it could mean in the future. That's the logic I'm telling myself. So one of the things that's really bothering me, and I can tell you is bothering my brother Kenny because I get the text message during the game. They have a propensity to give up long down and distance. So I think they gave up a 2nd and 30 today. The TV had it wrong. It wasn't third down. It was actually only second down. They gave like a 32-yard pass to a tight end in the seam. I'm like, what the hell was that? You don't give up second. They give up like a 3rd and 14 or 15 later, and they give up those. So we don't ever get to feel comfortable. Okay, got him to 3rd and 15. Yeah, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. And I am of the opinion, as is Art. I think it's scheme. I don't understand what Aaron Glenn is trying to do at certain points in the game with the coverage schemes. Like guys are wide open. Like Justin Jefferson, who is, I can say arguably, right? Or even not arguably, the best receiver in football. How the hell is he so wide open? He's not beating guys. If you're telling me that Cam Sutton is there and Justin Jefferson just made a play, I get that. Because Justin Jefferson is one of the best in the league at what he does. It's not it. There were back-to-back plays. There wasn't a guy within 8 yards of Justin Jefferson. What in your scheme is allowing Justin Jefferson to be that open multiple times? So now some of this could be assignment discipline. Some guy was supposed to be where he was and he's not doing it. Okay, you're telling me somebody doesn't know his responsibility on the play. I know in the regular business world how you handle that. That guy's off the field, right? You got to put somebody else on the field who understands assignment discipline. I'm not going to say that term too many times. I think that's what's happening now. Last week, CD Lamb put up over 200. The refs helped, right? But the last 3 weeks, Jefferson 2 weeks ago put up 140 and a touchdown. Lamb put up 227 last week, and JJ put up another 190 today. This is something. There's something going on in the secondary. We can't ignore that. I get it. We just really won 3 out of our last 4. You can make an argument we won all 4. We're 12-5. We won the division. All that good stuff exists, but it doesn't mean I have to ignore what I'm seeing with my own eyes from our secondary. And I just don't think it is players. Players. Thank you, Brian. Decker was eligible. My good friend Brian just chimed in and reminded me that, yeah, Decker reported. I agree. So is it communication on the field? Are guys not talking to each other so that Kirby Joseph doesn't know where Cam Sutton is, or vice versa? I feel like a lot of times Cam Sutton thinks he's got help behind him. And then some guy's wide open for a 25-yard pass, and he and Kirby Joseph are looking at you. Is that communication on the field, or is it the scheme? Truthfully, I don't care. I know whose job it is to fix it. It's Art's favorite defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. Why is Kendall Vildor a rookie? And I'm not bad mouthing Kendall Vildor. The kid has worked his way into a job in the NFL. Looks like a decent young player. Why is he manned up on the best receiver in football? That makes no sense. That's just bad leadership. That's bad scheme. There should never be a world, a day, a time, a situation, a game where Kendall Vildor is lined up man to man against Justin Jefferson. That can never happen again. That can never happen again. Because leaders, and I'm talking about Aaron Glenn, leaders have a lot of jobs, right? There are metrics that they're responsible for, and they have to stand in front of a board at the end of the year and say, we hit our numbers. They have goals, right? That they help develop. This is what success looks like if an individual does this or if my team does this. But there is another responsibility that leaders have, and they're not all good at it, and they don't all take it seriously, and they don't all realize it, right? All organizations don't realize that their leaders also need to be responsible for removing obstacles and putting their people in a position to succeed. This is regular life, this is business, and it's damn sure football. And right now what I see is Aaron Glenn's schemes, not every single play, multiple times a game though, do not put his players in a position to succeed. I believe Aaron Glenn failed Kendall Vildor on that play. I don't think Kendall Vildor is a bum, or Cam Sutton's a bum when Jefferson's running behind him. Cam Sutton's not a bum. I know Cam Sutton's not a bum. Uh, but if you don't put them in a position to succeed, so now if Aaron Glenn sits me down and says, "Hey man, Justin Jefferson's a really good player," cool, I'll buy that. That's not what I saw today. What I saw was Justin Jefferson as well as Addison running by themselves in these gaping holes in your coverage. That's what I saw. And so part of the job, uh, and here's just a story from my real life. I'll be quick. What I do requires me to develop flow charts and facility layouts, right? And it doesn't matter what that is. There is a software program called Microsoft Visio that is really, really good at helping you do that, right? And I didn't have it, and my organization just didn't provide it initially. I didn't have it. And so I was doing it with the wrong program, a program that is not built to do that. And it takes significantly more time to do it. And I went to my leader and said, I need Visio. And, your job is a lot of things. Fight for me at time for my merit increase, my raise, my bonus. Yes. Give me good direction and guidance and leadership. Or what are we trying to do here? But another part of your job is to give me what I need. And Aaron Glenn's job that I think he fails miserably at is some of his schemes allow, and you've seen it 3 weeks in a row. And I could go back earlier in the season. Somebody ate us up earlier in the season. I want to say it might have been Keenan Allen in Los Angeles or someone else. Justin Jefferson shouldn't easily roast you. I get it. I get it. But CeeDee Lamb shouldn't get 227. And he will sit me down and say, bro, 92 of that came on a busted play that Derek Barnes should have safety. All that's good and great. But I saw Justin Jefferson wide open minimum 7 times today. Not covered, and Jefferson made a play over fill in the Lions defender. So when I go to my leader and say, I need Vizio to do my job better, and he says, we can't do it. We don't buy it. It's a licensing. I was like, no, I need you to understand I need it. So I just bought it myself. And it might not have been the right thing to do because he then ultimately came back and went, okay, I get it. If you're willing to buy it yourself, it must be important to you. And now he's getting it, right? Um, and it actually was a guy before I have now, but uh, leadership has a job of putting you in a position to succeed. And I don't think Aaron Glenn always does a good because here's the reality. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nakua, and Cooper Cup are coming. Or Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs are coming. They're coming. And they have film of today and CD Lamb last week and Justin Jefferson 2 weeks ago. They see the soft cushion. And my brother Kenny hates the soft cushion. Why are guys playing 12 yards off? I don't know. They see the zone with the brackets that leaves a 9 or 10 yard gap. They're going to crush us with that. They're going to exploit that. And it's AG's job to do it. Or you're going to make Art's fondest wish come true. And you're going to, Art would fire him today. Art doesn't care if we're going to the playoffs. He'd fire AG right now. Right? But if we get knocked out of the playoffs because of this, and this stands out as the chief reason, receivers running wide open in this zone coverage with the brackets and the giant holes, and that's why we get knocked out, whether it's Stafford, Love, or Dak and CD later, or hell, if it's Brock Purdy and Debo, if it happens that way, I'm not sure I'm not on the train with Art. I might be on the train with Art. Now, there are people going to sit me down and say what my boss said to me when I got Vizio. We hit our numbers. We're doing great. We're hitting our metrics. We're doing fine. You're doing fine. I'm not doing fine. You won today. You should have won last week. You won 2 weeks ago. I don't know how to ignore the numbers that Justin Jefferson and CD Lamb put up on our secondary in the last 3 weeks, right? We can. I do see more pressure, and that might be the answer because a month ago we were saying get pressure no matter what. You can't get pressure with Ford. You got to send blitzes. And I saw a corner came today, and ultimately I think Hutch got the sack. Maybe it was Sutton. Maybe Aaron Glenn would sit me down and say, "Hey, I gotta put Kendall Vildor man up on Justin Jefferson so I can send Cam Sutton on a corner blitz." And he might be able to sit me down and talk me out of all this. I am frightened, and I don't really do fear like that. I see the way we can lose and get knocked out of the playoffs as soon as next week. I see it. I don't want it to happen. You guys know who I am, but that's got to be fixed. That's AG. And if he doesn't, we're not going to be worried about AG getting another coaching job. There are going to be people calling for him to be fired. And my friend Art will be leading the charge, right? So also, I still think at key moments in the game, I don't love the play calling. And it probably feels or sounds like I'm anti Ben Johnson. And I got tweets and I had to explain I'm not anti Ben Johnson. That's not what's happening. There are times there was a 13-3 late second, 3rd and 1. He ran like a shotgun counter play that creates gaps, cause asks the guards to pull, and it makes it easy for people to just shoot. And the guy shot the gap and they lost 3 yards. I had to punt. Those little things go unnoticed. But if they get that and ultimately score on that drive, it's a 20-3 game. That might be a different game. It might not be as hard. Maybe you get guys out of the game sooner. Those moments kind of go unnoticed. And there's 3 or 4 of those in the game, and they always stand out to me. Um, it still goes back to that mentality. You had an opportunity to put your foot on their neck. The trophy room mentality, stomp them out. You've got them 13-3. You got the ball, stomp them out. And I get it. JMO didn't play today. So maybe, but you went deep to St. Brown. I just don't understand it. There are times when there are calls that Ben Johnson makes, and I just don't understand them. I'm certainly not calling for his job like Art is with AG. It doesn't make sense calling a counter, a shotgun counter there when Montgomery has been hitting gaps and you run those inside plays and they're automatic 2-3 yards. I don't get it. It seems like sometimes you outsmart yourself. That's all I'm saying. So as for players, and I'll be quick. Hutch obviously was a monster today. St. Brown played great. The O line in general, I think, played great. Branch was playing well, other than the one play I didn't like. And I love Cam Sutton. I think there might have been a play or two today that some people I like Cam Sutton more than most people though. Truth is I'm a Cam Sutton guy, I have to be honest. But I'm data driven. And I have 17 data points on Cam Sutton as a Detroit Lion. And 14 of them are good. Hell, 10 of them are really good. And if you're the kind of person that wants to take those three bad games and say that's who Cam Sutton is, we can agree to disagree. That's fine. But Josh Pascal played well. He's getting better every week. And I honestly believe that back at the deadline, when people wanted go get Chase Young, and Chase Young isn't doing a damn thing in San Francisco for the record. Go get Montez Sweat. Well, Montez Sweat was going to want 160 million, and I have no interest in giving Montez Sweat 160 million dollars. Go get Daniil Hunter. I think he made one play today. All that, my feeling is Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell sat in the room and said, Josh Pascal's really playing better. You get one of those guys and you stunt the growth of Josh Pascal. And I think Josh is a really good player. We had a Levi Onwuzurike sighting. So some of the players played well today. I'm happy for Josh Reynolds. I like how these players play for each other. I saw how happy they were when St. Brown scored. David Montgomery picked him up, and Khalif Raymond gave him a big hug. These guys dig each other. I love most of the players. There's a player I truly dislike. My issue, as you've heard the last 4 or 5 podcasts, I think it's coaching. I think it's scheme. Not even the head coach, because I probably was a Dan Campbell guy earlier than most people. I got over the kneecap thing quick and sort of saw what they were doing. I am a Brad Holmes guy for sure, and everybody knows how I feel about Sheila. So organization, I think we're fine. I like the roster. It's a good young roster, but they grind. It's not always pretty. Hell, it's almost never pretty. They grind. They're built in the image of the coach, and I might suggest they're built in the image of the owner. I think this team you look at and you see this grit and grind. I know her maiden name's Ford. I think that's Sheila. And I think it's definitely Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. But everybody knows how much I think Sheila. That's fine. Um, but no matter what happens in the next few weeks, I like this team and I like the organization. I like how this particular team is built. I like what I believe they can do against any team in the tournament, anywhere, anytime. Games at home, games on the road. I don't care. I think we're a tough out. I think we're gonna be hard to beat. So today's game, I think to me was just a solid workmanlike effort. Went in, did what you had to do, made some mistakes, made the plays when you need to, and got the win over a team you should win. You should beat, right? A double-digit win at home, had a couple of turnovers. There's nothing to complain about today. That's what today should have been. You're not still pissed about Dallas. You got over that, came home and handled your business. So I'm cool with today. Let's hit a couple of Twitters. I'm long because of my Dallas rant, but that's okay. I'll run through these. What's the first one you got? How do you think the Dallas ending impacted the team today and going forward? I would suggest it didn't impact them much. Maybe in a good way though. There's a whole chip on your shoulder concept. But I think that mentality was already there with this team. I think this is a Detroit versus everybody type of organization. It's why we love them. They fit. They fit what we're about. They fit what the fan base is about, what the city's about. That's the best part of this. This team is built in the image of the city, is what I should have said. There's a chance getting screwed in Dallas last week amplified it a little. I think early we saw some intensity. I think we saw some chippy play, a couple fights, but I think that was already there. I think that's who this team is. They have a saying and language alert for the kids listening. It's one that I love, and they say, we're built for this shit. We're built for this shit, and I think that's legit. I think they're built for this. I think they're built to play any team, anywhere, and it's going to be a tough game. I'm not saying they're automatically going to win. I'm not scared of anybody. I don't think San Francisco's unbeatable. I know Dallas is beatable, and Philly is reeling right now. So who should I be scared of? My contention is the Lions played a B minus type of game last week in Dallas and still should have won. I'm not one of those who's ready to crown San Francisco. Do I think it's going to be tough to go to San Francisco in late January and win? Yep. But do I think this team can do it? Yeah, because we can run the ball right now. We get James Houston back. We're going to get Ducey's going to be a little healthier. CJ Gardner Johnson. I think Pascal's going to keep playing well. Lee McNeil came back today. I like the team. I think Laporta would be a blow, but I like this team. I like the way they're constructed. I like the way they play. They grimy. They're grimy. They grind. They're dirty. They will fight you. So if you beat them, it won't be easy. And I think that's almost better, right? They're not going to go roll anybody, not in the playoffs. But guess what? Nobody's going to roll them either. They're built for weather. They're built to play on the road. They're built for high intensity, right? Thank you, Joe. I forgot about JMO. JMO comes back. If Houston comes back and he's ready to roll, God forbid Laporta's not hurt. We didn't even have the JMO piece today, right? The threat of JMO. We didn't have it. I think this team is cool under pressure. I think the most impressive thing to me was they got the ball with a buck 40 last week in Dallas on the road, hostile environment. Hadn't played a great game, went right down and scored. That's what I like about this team. They don't flinch. They don't trip when stuff gets hard. They laid one egg this year, and that was in Baltimore. Their other losses weren't eggs, weren't deals where they didn't show up and they didn't work and they didn't fight. They made mistakes, right? Penalties, turnover, discipline stuff that cost them those games. And that stuff is correctable. You know how I know? Because we've seen it. Because they turned the ball over once in 4 games when they had 14 in the previous 3. And those numbers might not be perfect, but they're close. They're close. I think they've turned the ball once since Denver. Denver, the 2 Minnesotas, and Dallas. I think they had 1 turnover. And the 4 games before that, which was Thanksgiving, Chicago, I think Chargers, and somebody else that I don't Saints maybe. I think they had 14 turnovers in that 4 block. I've already given my speech on turnovers being the most important stat in football. You don't turn the ball over, you give yourself a chance to win every game when you're as good as the Lions are. So my answer is I think the Dallas thing, I think it fueled an already burning fire. This team plays with a chip. This team plays all the catchphrases are legit. Grit, salty, all that stuff's real. That's how they think. That's how the organization thinks. So it gave them a little bit. Now, if we end up back in Dallas in 2 weeks, oh, we're gonna remember, right? We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna deal with it. We're gonna address it. Or if I don't see any way the Commanders come back in this Dallas game. So we're the 3 seed. So we end up in Dallas in 2 weeks after we dispatch of the Packers or the Rams, whoever we've got next week. Cool. But I think this team is in the moment. This is an in the moment kind of team. And I think they focus on what's in front of them right now. There was a degree of man that sucked. They probably put it behind them by Monday morning. We hung on to it for a while. And I think Joe said Dallas has our number. No, no. The referees in Dallas have our number. I would say that. I don't agree. I don't agree. The team I saw last week, that game, that Dallas team doesn't beat us in Detroit. Absolutely not. They don't beat us in Dallas without help from the refs. And there are people who's like, oh, the Lions made a play here or there before. Well, if Derek Barnes makes the sack, the 92-yard touchdown never happened. That's a 9-point swing. That's a different game. If Derek Barnes, so we can do that. The reality is the 2-point conversion play cost the Lions the game. Don't give me they had 23 seconds and 3 timeouts. I don't want to hear that. Okay, I don't want to hear that. Was it possible? Maybe. I don't want to hear that. I like my statistical probability if I'm up with 23 seconds and they have all 3 timeouts. Because that's at most 4 plays. And I get it. CD Lamb had a big day. Cool. Wait, okay. All right. I don't think the Dallas thing, I mean, if you think about it, um, there was no carryover. You could see the way they played Minnesota. There was no carryover, right? I agree. Kenny says Dallas didn't win the game. They got a victory, but didn't win. Well put. I agree. Um, they didn't. They came back today and they looked like the team we got to know. Even in Baltimore, when they got smoked in Baltimore earlier in the year, they came back 8 days later at home, put together a workmanlike Monday night beatdown of the Raiders. I think it was 2 touchdowns. It wasn't that close. This team doesn't get rattled by stuff. So I wasn't surprised they came back and played well today. I didn't think the Dallas thing would rattle them. So, all right, next one. If you dropped Matthew Stafford into this instead of Jared Goff, would the team go further in the playoffs? Huh. So the question from, I guess that's Jack B. Nimble 84. Jack B. Nimble is asking me if I think, because I love Stafford. People know I, but truthfully, I like Goff more now. Odd, but Goff's now my guy. I might just be a quarterback whore. I don't know. But I'm a big Goff guy. I think he's asking me if Stafford was the quarterback now, Do I think the team will go further than whatever's going to happen with golf? And it's a complicated question because it's, are you saying, if you're saying we didn't make the trade, then no, because we wouldn't have. So the Stafford trade, and I'm going to do this from memory. So if somebody Googles this and I got it wrong, whatever. So I think we ended up, when you looked at that trade in its totality, it was Stafford. I think we gave up a second because Brad Holmes traded and moved a lot of picks. And I'm going from memory. I think it was a second, two-thirds, and a fourth. So it would have been Stafford, a second, two-thirds, and a fourth. And they went to different teams. So I don't know who those players were. But from that move, from all those moves, we got JMO, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Josh Pascal, Iffy Melanfonwu, and the tackle that's Martin, Broderick Martin. Oh, and Jared Goff, right? Goff, JMO, Jameer, Laporta, Pascal, Melanfonwu, and Broderick Martin, who may one day be. No, no, I don't even know who those other dudes were. I would not redo that. And I love Stafford. I just named like our young core. Those guys are, along with Panay Sewell and Amara St. Brown and others. You just built a young core of dudes on rookie contracts that have just taken you to a 12-5 season and winning your division. So if you're saying reverse time, I don't think the roster is as good if you don't make the trade. So that's the first answer. Now, if you're telling me right now as we sit, I just swap them, nope, I'm still going with no. And some of that is, I love Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff fits perfectly. He does exactly what we ask him to do and need to do. Jared Goff doesn't have Matthew Stafford's arm, so he doesn't try some stuff that Stafford tries. Stafford would have a few more exciting plays, but he have more interceptions and stuff too. And I just don't think this offense fits Stafford. This offense fits Jared Goff because it was built for Jared Goff, right? So my short answer on that is I wouldn't do it in either way. I wouldn't pull him out and drop him in now, and I wouldn't undo the trade. I wouldn't do either one of those. Okay, last one. With the league potentially stealing a divisional round playoff game from us and our performances in Baltimore, Chicago, and Dallas, do you have any concerns about home versus road? Huh. The answer is no, because cornbread and Kool-Aid doesn't really do negativity. No, truth is Baltimore's the only egg. Baltimore's the only game they play like crap. The Chicago game was 13-13 late in the third quarter. And we turned it over twice, gave Chicago two short fields. They capitalized and won that game. That game didn't bother me because I looked, and you can go back to the podcast. That game barely bothered me because what I knew happened there was we gave that game away. The turnovers. I did a whole rant on turnovers after that game. The game last week doesn't bother me at all because we won. And I'm not doing the whole, oh, we deserve. That's fine. I'm cool with the 12-5. I hope we get a chance to go back in 2 weeks. I'm not sweating the Dallas game. The Lions played well enough last Saturday to win the game, like Kenny said. Dallas got the victory, but they didn't win. And guess who knows that? Dallas. I don't give a shit what they're saying in the public. I don't care what they're saying on their podcast. They know. They know what happened. They all know. And they're players and they talk and they know. They know Decker reported. They know we converted that too. They know they lost that game. They know it. And they don't have to say it. And they can walk around tricking everybody else. But we know it and they know it. And we're not going to play nearly as bad as we did last. And I think we played like a B minus game last week in their house on prime time and beat them. Yeah. So I don't count Chicago and Dallas as two crappy road games. What's his name? Mike something. I think MK, whatever. So I don't, again, I'm a data guy. You know me. If you want to isolate Baltimore, cool, except that was 2.5 months ago, and we haven't seen a performance like Baltimore since. You're not going to define them and tell me the Lions are the team that played in Baltimore. That doesn't float with me. It just doesn't work because I've seen 8, 9 games since then. I saw them go to Kansas City week 1. So if you can pull Baltimore, I can pull Kansas City and say that team went into the house of the Super Bowl champs, first game of the season, prime time, did what it took to win. Tampa won the South. You cannot think they're good, but they're a division champ. I watched the Lions go down there in their building. manhandle them, right? 2 division winners, and 3 if you count Dallas. 3 if you count Dallas. So I've watched them play well enough to win on the road against 3 division champs. I don't have any concerns about the road. You can isolate Baltimore if you want. Chicago doesn't bother me. But here's the thing. If you watch this team, as painful as it is for us during the 4 hours, and it can feel really painful during the 4 hours, this team can play with anybody. I don't feel like that's even cornbread or Kool-Aid. This team can play with anybody. So let's see what happens the rest of the night. My guess is I haven't seen scores. I've been glancing. Looks like Dallas is going to win the East. And so we'll probably get the Rams, and then the Packers will go to Philadelphia. No. Packers will go to Dallas. We'll get the Rams, and Tampa and Philly will play. So we will see. I have no idea when we're going to play, so I don't know when the next podcast is going to. It's going to be right after the next game, whenever it is. I feel good about anybody coming into Detroit. We can play with anybody. It won't be pretty. The only thing I'll guarantee you is it won't be a blowout. We'll win something by 4, 6, 10, maybe. If we really put together, today was an A- game. Pretty crisp, no turnovers. I think we left some points on the field, but they play well enough to win. And the scary thing is, if we get the Packers, that's great. If we get the Packers, that's great. Um, um, the Packers, we owe them one, right? So there's a degree of that to me. While I'm saying I don't think the stuff carries over, I imagine they'll talk about what happened on Thanksgiving. I don't care if it's the Packers. I don't care if it's the Rams. I don't care who it is. I really don't. I'm at a point with this team where I think they're good enough to play with anyone. I said 6 weeks ago, probably Thanksgiving, the Lions are playing the same team every week, and it's the Detroit Lions. And that remains the same, probably until we get to San Francisco, if we get there. Last week, they could have beat Dallas, should have beat Dallas. If Barnes gets the safety, 98-yard pass or whatever it was, that never happens. That's a different game. That's a different game. So in general, today was solid workmanlike effort. Did what needed to be done. Got your business taken care of. Let's pray for Sam Laporta, for him personally, not just to play. Hopefully, um, I hope Leaf's okay. They both have knees, but if not, then next man up. Everybody's got injuries. I don't accept that. I think they're good enough to play with any team in the league. So I expect them to play well and win next week. I don't care who the opponent is. So yeah, that's my thing on Dallas. That's my thing on today. I'm looking forward. I'm excited. I mean, our guys went 12-5. Should have been 13-4. I can't let it go yet. I know it's been 8 days. I have not let it go. Um, but I like where we are. I like the team we have. I like our quarterback. I like our skill position. I like our O line. I like what the defensive line is becoming. Art's favorite defense coordinator's got to get his shit together. That's just a reality. Um, he's there's something going on back there, and he's got to. So I'm guessing Joe might be a Michigan guy. He wants me to give Donovan Peoples-Jones some love. Okay, it's cool. He's a Lion now. Everybody knows I bleed green and white, but that's cool. I'll give the guy some love. He made a couple of plays today. And I think there's a lot of guys like that. Levi Onwuzurike has been dragged, man. I dragged him. But he showed up today and he got a decent game. So I want them to get healthy, stay healthy, be healthy, and just come out and play your game. And whoever shows up next week in Detroit, you know, uh, um, nice. Whoever shows up next week in Detroit, get ready for work, if nothing else. I don't know if we're going to win or lose. I don't know how far we're going to go. There's a part of me that wants to say, I think we should be in the NFC Championship game. I think we're the second best team in the conference. I'm looking at Dallas put up 35 on the Commanders, and I don't really care because I know who Dallas is. And if we play them, it'll be in Dallas where we beat them last week, or it'll be in Detroit, and they don't want that. And I don't think we're going to get them. I hope they don't get upset by the Rams or the Packers or whoever they get, because I want that. I want that smoke. I want that rematch. I want to rub it in. So um, I think we're all good. I think we got a good hour in. We're in a good place, guys. And I'm excited about what we're doing and where the team is. I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, for the podcast, likes, retweets, reposts, whatever it is you do, Tell people about it, please. I appreciate it. Ford Field will be rocking next week, like Kenny said. I think Bear's going to be there. Um, Bear's my brother-in-law. In case I shout out everybody who chimes in and offers me help or thoughts or guidance. So if you go into the comments and say something, I'll probably acknowledge you, unless you're that jackass Kenneth Reed, who I haven't seen now, who was talking shit back after we lost to the Bears, and I still don't know who his team is. So if you watch this, man the fuck up and let me know who your team is so we can talk. Sorry for the language. That dude pissed me off weeks ago, and I ain't over it. All right, I appreciate it, guys. We'll get there next week. Um, the place will be rocking, and I'm looking forward to it. So until then, we'll catch you next week.